Showing off, don't wanna have to wait tonight. Better off, I'm gonna find my way tonight. Wait tonight. Won't you talk to me? I wanna heal your sorrows.
All right, van life video number 2. Have we got a story for you? Jeff retired March 1st, and so we took what we thought would be the trip of a lifetime. Machu Picchu, Galapagos Islands. It was going to be a month long. It was going to be fabulous. And then coronavirus 19 hit. But not before we managed to get from Lima to Cusco, all the way up to Peru. And our big treat for his retirement was to stay at the Belmond Wildlife Reserve. That's not what it's called.
Yeah, wildlife sanctuary.
So we arrived on a Sunday afternoon and we had tickets to Machu Picchu for the next 2 days. And we asked the guy at the desk, hey, what time does Machu Picchu close? It had been raining for days, but the sun came out. It was now about 3:30. The guy said it closed at 4. And I said, what are the chances? We have tickets for the next 2 days, but we're gonna leave Tuesday. What are the chances we could get in yet? And the guy said, sure, let's go talk to the guy at the gate and ask him. He said, I don't know. I think they might allow you to do that. So, all in our best Spanish, of course. We walk over to the gate, and the guy from the hotel says to the guy at Machu Picchu, hey, these guys have tickets for the next 2 days. They can't go for the 2 days. They're not going to go for 1 day, but could they come in tonight? And he said, I will allow it. And so after we got in through the gate, we walked in. Okay.
So this is at like 3:59 p.m.
When we walked in, I looked at my watch. It was 3:58.
They close at 4, but for those that are in the park, they chase you out at 5:30. So we had an hour and a half of a beautiful sunset ahead of us here, and so we scurried through the gates and headed on in.
There were, I've counted in photographs, maybe 30 people in there, but I think probably the most I ever counted in any one photo was 22 people. So we basically had the place all to ourselves. The sun is shining. I'll insert some photos so you can see. We had a private tour of Machu Picchu. It was the best thing that happened to us. We kind of forgot all about the virus for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So eventually they chased us out. This guy had the great idea of taking a picture.
I just had a premonition that there were rumors about things closing down, certainly in the United States they were closing down, and the rest of the world. And there were rumors going around about the same thing happening in Peru. And we thought to ourselves, well, what if they closed this place? And so as we walked out, I took a picture of the gate guard locking the gate to Machu Picchu. We didn't think anything of it. We headed over to the hotel, nice shower, had a lovely dinner.
Awesome dinner. Went to sleep early because we were going to hike Machu Picchu the next day. And somewhere around 11:45, the phone starts ringing. And it's an in-room phone. I mean, when was the last time your hotel room phone rang? And Jeff was like, whoa, what's that? And I'm like, I think it's a phone. So I eventually found it, answered it, and it's this lady at the front desk, and she starts talking really fast English with a Spanish accent and describes how the president of Peru has just set the midnight the next day for the border closing.
Yeah, so we had 24 hours, all borders, all airports were closing. And the park was not going to open tomorrow.
She had the staff at the hotel had the wonderful foresight to say, you need to get out of here, you need to go now. The first bus leaves here at 4:30, because this hotel is up at the gate of Machu Picchu, so it takes about a half hour to traverse down the mountain just to get to the town of Aguascalientes.
If you've not made that trek, I don't know whether there's 15 switchbacks. It's a hair-raising ride.
It takes about a half an hour.
Yeah, so at 4:30 in the morning, the van's waiting. I think there might have been six people in the van.
Maybe 10, yeah. A little bus, a little small bus. And we kind of thought maybe they had things wired for us with the rail station, because if you don't know, Machu Picchu is all the way at the end of this old rail service called Peru Rail. And the bus dropped us all off, and we had a ticket for that day. We got a ticket, but it wasn't until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So this is now about 5 o'clock in the morning. They drop us off at the train station. Literally hundreds, maybe 1,000 other foreign nationals had the same idea and are panicked and freaked and at the gate,
as well as locals
waiting for Peru Rail to open.
Yeah, so if you haven't done this trip, let me quickly describe where Machu Picchu is. It's like the end of a long transit adventure. You fly into Lima, then you fly from Lima to Cusco, and then you take a van or a bus from Cusco to a train station. Then you take a train to Aguas Caliente, and then another van to get into Machu Picchu.
A bus, yeah.
Or a van or a bus. So it's a really extended logistical challenge just to get there, and we had to do it in reverse in 24 hours.
We had 24 hours to get to the Lima airport.
Oh yeah, and
that's another video. Don't tell them. That's a whole other story we have to tell you. But in the meantime, we get to the rail station, and I thought that the hotel had things wired for us, so I kind of went up to the front of the line with our rail line tickets. And the guy said, "This is until 1 o'clock. Like, go away." And so they began to divide the train passengers up into Peruvian locals and foreign nationals. So if ever there was a chance that we were going to contract the coronavirus, that was the place, because there was literally hundreds of people jammed into this very tight bottleneck fence waiting to get on a train. And it didn't open, I think, until 5:30, maybe 6.
First train at 6.
First train at 6, I think. Yeah, so I think they opened at 5:30. And so the first train came and went, and they let a lot of Peruvian locals on, and the foreign nationals were kind of, but nobody had tickets, so how much could they complain? And then it came time for the next train to come through. So again, I walk up with my ticket, and I just stayed kind of close to the gate, and they were like letting people through that had tickets. They were letting mostly Peruvian nationals through, and then they started looking around and letting people in. I was like, I have a ticket. And so he goes, okay, go through. And we went to the Peruvian rail ticket office, where there was one very overwhelmed person. While we were in line for that, a guy comes and plucks us out of the line and says, go get on that train.
Essentially said, if anybody, and I give Peru officials big accolades here. I mean, it was a very stressful situation, unique in the history of pretty much anybody that was living, and they decided, hey, if you already have a ticket, we'll just put you on. If there's a seat, we'll put you on. And so anybody that had a ticket, and we had a ticket for a much later train, but they said, hey, there's 2 seats in this car, get in here. And so we got in the car.
We met this nice couple from Cincinnati, Ohio. Shout out to Don and Lois, who asked us, well, once you get to Ollantaytambo, how are you going to get back to Cusco, which is about an hour and a half ride? And we're like, well, we're kind of hoping for an Uber, which at this point,
that's how we got
the
there.
system was breaking down, but so it was a very big wish. And they said, well, we were just on this high altitude tour, and we just came down from the mountains. There were supposed to be 6 people on it, but the other family didn't show, so it was just the 2 of us. And so we've got extra room in our very nice transit van. Let me just text them and see if you can come with us. Yeah, they said that would be fine. So we actually got a ride back in a really nice motor coach. We'll have to get the name of that company and insert it here, because they must have been on a really high-end tour. They had really phenomenal treatment. So we get back to Cusco, and they were just going to pick up their luggage and go to the airport. And we get there, and they said, there's a problem. If you don't have an airline ticket for today, you're not even allowed to go to the airport. So at that point, we split ways. Their nice driver took us maybe a mile away and dropped us at the airport, and they got a different coach and headed for the Bolivian border. That was their only hope of getting out, because they didn't have an airline ticket for that day, and the borders closed at midnight. Yeah. So now it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. He drops us off at the Cusco airport. We had this little hour-and-a-half flight over to Lima. Again, we had an airline ticket, but it wasn't until about 6 o'clock that night, and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. It's raining. We're standing in mud puddles. We have our rain gear on.
And the airport's locked down. They actually had brought in military to secure the airport, and they would only let people in if your flight was taking off within 2 hours.
In 2 hours. So.
And so we were way early. We also got a text at that time that our flight moved forward like 15 minutes. And so we were already concerned that we had a really tight connection from Cusco to Lima, then Lima to the U.S. So we really needed to get to Lima earlier, especially with this kind of panic setting in.
So again, walk up to the gate with my ticket, and I said, we have a ticket. And they said, come back when it's 2 hours before your flight. And we're like, but we're trying to get out. We're trying to get to the U.S. They're like, no deal. Go away. So we're standing there in the rain, and Jeff says, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, what else can we do? I guess we're doing this for the next umpteen hours. And
let me just describe, there's hundreds of people standing out
again,
in the rain.
100 foreign
outside
nationals.
the gates in the mud.
In the pouring rain. So maybe 45 minutes go by, and I take Jeff's phone that has the ticket from Lima to Fort Lauderdale, my phone that has a ticket from Cusco to Lima, and I go up and shout out to Leo Ward, my high school Spanish professor, in my best Spanish. I went up to an armed military guy with a gun across his chest and showed him both phones and said in my best Spanish, it's very important that we get in there, and we need to get on an earlier flight because our flight is leaving, the border's closing. And he never said a word. He just stood there with the gun across his chest.
It's actually a rifle.
That's a gun. It's a rifle gun. And he backed up, kind of put his elbow into the gate to open it, and let us pass by. He never said a word. And we literally got past him and literally started sprinting for the airport because tensions were high. I mean, it was terrifying at this point. We get into the airport, and it's a mob scene in there, but the airline that we were flying, which is called Viva Air, nothing. Crickets, empty gate. There was just one foreign national woman standing there waiting in line. It's now 10:30 in the morning, and the next flight leaves, we found out, at 2:30. So nobody, what do you do? We get in line. So we're like second in line. Other people were coming, and then there are like people with, special needs and all kind of things. And it was just a long, nerve-wracking wait. And eventually, the Viva Air people showed up. We're like, oh yeah, they'll show up 2 hours before the flight. 2 hours comes, hour and a half comes. About an hour and 15 minutes before their flight, they show up. The gate agents show up, and now there's hundreds of people in line behind us. And so Jeff, in his infinite wisdom, starts counting how many people go through. Their whole intention is just to get that plane filled and get it out. And I go up, we're second or third in line.
And they also said it's completely booked. There's no space available.
No space available. But we're like, we have a ticket. If by any chance there's an extra seat, could we go? We need 2 tickets, And they're like, no, get out of here. So we're standing off to the side with our best puppy dog eyes, and Jeff starts counting the number of people that they go through, and it's now getting close to takeoff time, but he comes up to me and says, there's no way they filled that flight. And the guy started going through the line, picking people out. No idea how he was picking people out, but he was letting people on the flight that didn't have tickets. And I was kind of irritating, like, wait, we have a ticket and you're not letting us on the flight, but you're letting these people who don't have tickets on the flight. So eventually they exhausted everybody in the line. It was pretty much just us. And I'm like,
see, the problem was thousands of people were trying to get from Cusco to Lima. But since they locked the airport and only let people in with tickets, you couldn't go into the airport to buy a ticket if you didn't have one for that day. And if you tried to go online or call, in our case, Viva Air, that system was swamped. So they weren't getting tickets. So here you had a plane with 180 seats, and again, people couldn't get to the airport. So the thing was probably short, 20 or 30 seats from being full. And so
they did their best to fill it. Again, yeah. we give them a lot of credit. They did their best to fill it. And it finally got down to it was us or nobody. And again, in my best Spanish, I'm like, por favor, senor. And he finally was so kind of frustrated with us, be like, see my colleague on the end, and they put us on the flight. So we got out of Cusco, got to Lima early. And that's a story for another video. So we invite you to dial in, hear about the next leg of the saga.
Yeah, where we took the last flight out.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Thank you.